are talking The Special. This one is directed by B. Harrison Smith, who was previously responsible for the movie Death House. And this one stars Davy Raphaely, Dave Sheridan and Sarah French. Sheridan actually is fast becoming one of my favourite kind of B-movie actors. I've seen him in a couple of things and I find him always very, very watchable. And this one is quite a unique story in a lot of ways. I mean, there's a lot of critiques all the time that, you know, there's no original ideas in Hollywood and stuff like this. And I have to say, you know, this movie is somewhat of a unique premise and kind of interesting. It almost feels like it should be an episode of Tales of the Unexpected or Twilight Zone, something like that. But it has a sexual body horror twist to it. So what we've got these two guys, and one of them thinks that his wife is cheating. So his friend talks him into going to this brothel. Now, in this brothel, they have The Special. And it all sounds very vague. And, you know, he's led in there by his friend and go upstairs. And all he finds in there is a wooden box with a hole in it, and then says, stick it in here. And obviously he thinks it's a joke, first of all. Inevitably, that's exactly what he does, and when I say it, you know what I'm talking about, you know. Anyway, but it turns out that this gives him the most intense sexual pleasure he's ever experienced. But the man on the house said it's basically like a one-time thing. You can only ever really have it the once, and it basically says don't come back. But this guy, you know, he's getting obsessed with it. It's all he can think about. And ultimately, he goes back and steals it without really knowing kind of what's in the box. And along the way, things get progressively worse. Bodies start to mount up, and there seems to be some gooey mass within the box that, you know, is creating these feelings, so to speak. What will happen? You have to watch the movie to find out. So, quite a unique premise, actually. You know, it's quite funny in a lot of ways. They referenced the Lonely Island song Dick in a Box, which I thought was quite fun. First of all, what works? Okay, so points for originality. You know, I can't think of really, you know, another movie which has this kind of premise, to be quite honest with you. So big ups for that, to be fair. I also quite like the acting, I have to say. Like I said, I really enjoy Sheridan's work, but both kind of our main kind of like leads, you know, these two guys, both are very watchable. You know, and I think, you know, our main character has certainly a big arc within the film as well. And he sort of goes from very much everyman to becoming obsessed with the box and its contents ultimately, and really going to the point of ultimately madness with it. And it, you know, it does have some messaging in there about, you know, lust and things like that, and how, you know, how people are driven by certain urges, stuff like that. And, you know, it's certainly has, it's a film plot that you really haven't seen before. But it does feel like it should be a segment within a kind of a Tales of the Unexpected kind of style anthology, really. I have to say as well, the effects work is minimal, but when we do have effects, and it's particularly towards the end of the movie, it's very effective and kind of gross in a lot of ways. And the movie is very dark in its approach to the subject matter, I'm going to say. And there are some comedy moments in it, but overall, this movie is fairly dark stuff in a lot of ways. And I think when you come to the end of the movie, you're thinking, geez, you know, that is some pretty messed up stuff. Not gonna lie to you. You know, it's something that can, bloody hell, you know, it kind of feels like that. So there you have it. Okay, what doesn't work? I do think the premise is stretched out a little bit too long, to be honest with you. I think this movie would have been so much better had it been part of an anthology and maybe about 25 minutes long. Because I think the setup is very strong. I think the conclusion is strong. But in the meantime, I think really the kind of like the 60% in the middle seems dragged out. First 20% is great. last 20% is great. The 60% in the middle feels dragged out. And ultimately, we just see the kind of this guy sinking into more and more of an obsession. And to me, it didn't really go anywhere, sort of plot-wise. You know, kind of a few things happen and people start to become suspicious, yada yada. But I didn't really feel like the plot warranted a feature-length running time. I mean, I think it maybe needed to have something else, maybe another B plot added to it to kind of like plus the kind of the story here. Because the story, I should say, the story idea here is strong and it is very unique, which I applaud. But I just don't think it's enough to really kind of warrant a full-length movie in a lot of ways. I mean, it's still an enjoyable film, but I have to be honest with you, as much as I was engrossed at the beginning and came interested again at the end, the middle section here, my interest was kind of waning a little bit, and I did find myself feeling like this movie was kind of spinning its wheels just a little bit here. I also think the movie is... obviously, we're dealing with a, you know, paranormal, sort of supernatural subject matter here, but there are some elements here that seem a little bit kind of contrived and a little bit unbelievable in a lot of ways, the way people kind of react to things. And I do think there are some people who maybe will feel a little bit unsatisfied about the movie doesn't really explain certain plot points. It will show you things, but doesn't really give you any explanation about the kind of like the reason it is like that is the best way I would describe it. But to be honest with you, if you want something different, if you want kind of I mean, it's a sexually kind of themed movie, but it's not gratuitous in that respect. You don't see any nudity and stuff like that. But if you know, I do feel it's a worthwhile watch because the film, in a way, is kind of unique to it. And it's described, you know, on the blurb as the blob meets fatal attraction, and you know, don't read too much into that. To be honest with you, I think that's a little bit of a, I don't know. It doesn't really ring true to me, that, to be honest. But it's certainly an interesting idea here, and I feel it's executed at least partially very well. And I think this is certainly a redemption from B. Harrison Smith, whose Death House was practically unwatchable. Now, he didn't write this movie, he did co-write Death House, so I feel maybe his strength is more in direction rather than writing. Because the writing, as I say, is strong, and I do think the performances are good as well. So I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10. I did enjoy it, and I enjoyed the kind of the weird uniqueness that this movie offers a viewer. And if you like body horror, then the climax of this movie, no pun intended, will not disappoint. So a 6 out of 10 for me. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.